Hello, hello, hello. My name
Hi.
is Moyo Adigan, and this is the Redacted Nothing Show, aka the 20 Nothing Show. So I'm here with the amazing Khalia Ismain, the founder of Jamii, and we did an interview with my radio show back in 2017, where Jamii had just turned 1 year old. And one of the final lines I said in that is I remember saying, I can't wait to see what Jamie will become in the next 2, 3, 5, or 10 years. And guess what? Jamie turns 10 in 2026. So I'm here back with Carlia to explain her journey so far. So welcome back.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry for cutting off your intro. I got so excited.
Don't worry, it happens all the time. But thank you so much for coming back. I just want to kind of talk about your journey a bit. Let me big you up because when you came to the 20 Nothing Show in 2017, it was so much more about doing like pop ups and things like that. But you spoke so much about your journey and how much you want to help people get to know Black British businesses. And now you worked with hundreds of Black British brands. Built a community of tens of thousands of people. You've worked with Airbnb, Lloyd's. You've been on Forbes. Like it's been a heck of a journey, don't you think?
It's been it's been really amazing. As I was saying to you just before, right before this, I was on a call talking about how we're going to celebrate. And someone on the call was like, "You don't realize how much of an impact Jamie's made because you're in it and you're kind of
Mm.
like focused on, you know, is the website running and what are we going to write in our social media captions, the kind of the weeds of and the organized and the operation, sorry, of the business. And so I think I'm really excited for this to be an opportunity for us to step back and be like, wow, what did we actually create? Because when I started Jamie, I was 22. I was fresh out of uni. I had no concept of what I was doing. Um, I just had a mission and a dream. And so to be able to say that we'd be celebrating our 10th birthday and we've had so many achievements like the ones that you've listed and so many more as well is like, it's a real pinch me. And yeah, I'm very humbled to have gotten to this point.
It is actually quite amazing. And before we get into the weeds of your journey, so I did something on the 20 Nothing Show. I used to ask people the who, the what, the why, the where. And between all of those segments, I used to ask them what songs they were listening to at the time. Do you remember what songs you said you suggested?
If it was 2017,
This is good.
I could probably guess. If it was 2017, I bet I was banging out J Hus Common Sense.
Yes, so there was a
Uh,
J Hus Common Sense song. Do you remember what song it was? If you know the song, you're actually.
Was it Spirit?
Yeah, Spirit. Yes, it
Yeah,
was Spirit.
yeah.
Okay.
2017 was a very iconic music year. If you'd asked me any other year, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. But 2017,
I
I knew that.
mean,
Yeah, yeah,
and it was also Drake, Malik Berry,
yeah.
Smile
Yeah.
Jamaica as well. Like Iconics. Like, are you still
Oh,
listening to these songs?
so J Hus is still in heavy rotation. Malik Berry, yes, and similar, not similar sounds. Drake, not so much. Who's the other one you said?
Malik Berry and Smile Jamaica by Chronics.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I love me a bit of Chronics. I think my music tastes have actually frozen in time to that time period, if I'm honest with you.
So
Because I think that
that
was
was the last time that you added.
yeah, that was the last time I updated my if you saw my Spotify Wrapped for the last 5 years, it's been Burna Boy, Wizkid, Popcorn, um, and then someone out like Jay Huss or someone along those lines. And then the last one will always be someone really random. So last year it was Jess Glynn.
Darling, hold my hand. That's it. We're just listening to Jet to Holiday
Yeah,
in
yeah,
2025.
yeah. Random. Like whoever takes the fifth spot is like just that will really tell you what mood I was in last year.
Fair enough. Jet setter. So that is really good. So one of the things I asked was like, who are you? In
Mm.
That was one of my first questions, and something that came out to me is that Jamie was very much like a family oriented business. Like you mentioned your mum and her inspirations, but also like you work with your sister as well. Like, how have you gone from a family business and do you still keep those core principles?
Yeah, absolutely. So my sister and my mum absolutely remain integral parts of Jamie. So Courtney is EO. She's running everything to do with Jamie at the moment in terms of like the day-to-day operation. So especially over the last 3 years, almost everything you see Jamie do will have had a very heavy influence from Courtney, if not total influence. I'll never take credit for all the stuff that she's done and put in. And my mum has been absolutely critical for a lot of the operational stuff and also the emotional support and just keeping us sane. But we also have expanded the team a bit as well. So we have Deborah, who we work with on all of our PR and partnerships, who really keeps us on the straight and narrow. We started working with social media manager as well. We also have a developer. So fortunately, I can say it's not just me and Courtney doing everything nowadays, which is really good because you do get to a point where you need a bit more capacity, but also you just need different types of expertise and experience because you can't do everything really well.
No, it's a really interesting that you have that mindset of kind of understanding your limitations in some way, because something that you said that really stuck out to me in the previous interview, and I quote here, I don't want to kind of look back and be like, I knew I should have done this and I didn't. So it's that understanding of like really pushing forward. So what if 22-year-old Khalia could see you now, what would she be most surprised of?
Oh, you know what? I feel like I need to get a whole bunch of quotables from myself from that interview because
she was spitting. 22-year-old Khalia was spitting. Like she was.
Really, I was. Wow. So what was 22-year-old me be most surprised of? I think I would be maybe not surprised because I think I'll be honest, I do have a bit of ego, and so I think there's probably a part of
we'll
me
get onto that. Don't worry.
Like, yeah, of course I did all this. Like, but well, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think 22-year-old me would be taken aback by the sheer scale of some of the things that we've achieved. Because there's one thing saying this is the dream, this is where I want to be, what I want to do. It's another thing actually doing it and turning that into reality. And the fact that, as you mentioned, we've worked with so many incredible global names, the fact that we have worked with so many businesses, we've been on TV multiple times, we've had shops up and down the country, like these types of things. You hope it will happen and you pray that it will happen, but when it does, you're like, I can't believe I did that. That I can't, or we did that as a team. It was definitely a collective effort. Yeah, and I think me 10 years ago would just be absolutely blown away by all of that.
You said that because there's so many things in the interview that we've done that actually came true. Like you talked about pop-ups. So I've been to some of your pop-ups that you've done, and you're just talking about it like it was a pipe dream, and actually made it come into reality. It's crazy.
I'm big on manifesting and manifestation. I remember someone told me about pop-up shops back in 2017. I didn't really know what it was and the concept. And someone said to me, Jamie should do a pop-up shop. And I was like, oh, okay. And I looked into it and I thought, oh, it looks amazing. One day, it was a one day as in that I looked into it and I thought, can we do it in 2017? And it just wasn't going to make sense because we needed quite a bit of money. I was working full time and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have capacity to pull it off well, etc. So I kind of almost put it not to the back of my mind, but I just thought it's not right for now and that's okay, but I'll have it kind of on my vision board. And then when the opportunity first arose back in 2020, I just remember thinking to myself, I always wanted to do this and now it's happened. But sometimes you just need to wait for the right time and the right opportunity. Not everything needs to be done immediately. Not everything can be done at the time that you want to do it. So you just need to kind of stay the path, keep pushing, put one foot in front of the other, and you will absolutely get there eventually. You just have to stay faithful almost.
Yeah, it's so interesting you make that point about like moving like quickly, or because one thing you mentioned in the other interview was, so I started down so quickly, probably a little bit too quickly, because I didn't always have like a broad vision. So do you see a clearer idea of what you want Jamie to be now? Have you like slowed down, or are you still moving at 100 miles per hour?
No, we definitely slowed down because I think when I spoke to you in 2017, my perspective was I was worried that if I slowed down, I would stop.
Mm.
Whereas now, 9 years on, I know that I won't stop. Like the work that we're doing is really important. And so I don't have the same fears. But actually, as I've gotten older and I've got more experience, I see real benefits in taking and slowing down and thinking about, is this the right thing for us to do now? Are we the right people to do it as well? Because um, especially when I was younger, I used to think if we can, then we should. And that's not always the right way to think of it because you might not actually be the right person or organization to take forward specific ideas. You might be wasting your time and energies. And sometimes it's actually really good to take a beat and think to yourself, is this something we should be doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
Or should we either let someone else take the lead or put it on the back burner or just accept that as much as we'd love to be part of something or we'd love to contribute, we just can't because it would put too many other things that we're working on at risk. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, of course.
the nice to do's and the must do's,
Yeah.
the urgents, the not urgents, like actually having a sense of what those things are.
So do you find yourself saying no to a lot more things now
Yeah,
because you've
100%.
expanded so much as well?
Yeah. So what happened for us was in 2020, when the Black Lives Matter movement really kind of started to gain a lot of pace, we had almost every opportunity thrown our way. And what I said to Courtney at the time was, it sounds a bit cynical, but I was like, what goes up will come back down. So right now, we need to take everything. We need to take everything. We need to do everything. We have to work flat out to make sure that we are making hay while the sun shines, building really great relationships, taking all of the revenue generating opportunities, building out as much as we can, which meant we just took all the opportunities and just did a lot of things.
Yeah.
And over time, we started to burn out, and which is fine. We kind of knew that was going to happen, and we were kind of like, okay, we now need to be a little bit more strategic in terms of what we focus on, what we can do really well, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and we also want to make sure that we're building something that isn't just draining us of all of our energies and creativities as well, because that's not what a sustainable business looks like.
Yes.
And so that was something that was really important. So I think around 2022, we started to think, okay, are we going to kind of more focus on, and what are we going to say? This is not our remit. So someone asks us about it, we will just pass them on to another organization and say, you need to talk to them and not us.
That must feel so good that you've come into your journey so that you can be like, nah, this is not for me. That you don't feel like so much like, we need this.
Yeah, because there was so much stuff we were doing. We did like a bit of an internal audit where we were like, why are we doing this? Like, this is
Can you give an example?
Yeah. So there was a point where we were getting a lot of people asking us to help them build out Black-owned supply chains.
Okay.
And it was a lot of work for very little reward because they wanted us to identify businesses, support the businesses to get into the supply chains, but there wasn't a huge amount of money for it. They kind of were just like, well, you know everyone, so isn't it just part of your ethos to coordinate? And at first we were like, yeah, and we were able to scope out a bit of a revenue model for it. But as time went on, it wasn't really making sense for us to be part of the process. First of all, from a financial perspective, but second of all, it was just so much work, and it was taking us away from kind of what our core is, which is actually a bit more consumer facing than B2B. And so we were just like, this is not something, because we can't see this as something that we can meaningfully and sustainably grow out. We're just going to leave this here.
Like, who's it helping? It's so interesting.
Well, it wasn't necessarily like who's, because we could see that it was helping, but it was like, it's not helping us. So Do you know what I
And
mean? And
yeah, of course. And if it's going to help you, it's going to
yeah,
help your customers as well. Because again, in the
yeah,
previous interview, yeah, you said you had two main goals. You want to build Black British consumer market and help Black businesses hit the mainstream. So that's so crazy that like, yeah, that someone could have
yeah.
diverted your attention from doing that. So do you feel like you've actually made these things happen, or do you think one of those goals has taken precedent over the other?
So it's so funny, like hearing you say all the things that I that I said.
Does it
I
sound
think
like you as well? You're not like, did I say that?
it does sound like me, but it's
Yeah.
so crazy to hear that I apparently had such clarity of mind. I think that's
At
what's taking me.
22.
I think that's what's taking me back. That I'm like, wow, I said that because that's exactly what I've done. So I definitely think we've done both. I think in terms of helping Black businesses to hit the mainstream, I think massively, particularly during the 2021 period, like that was a real focus for us. And how do we leverage all of the attention that Black-owned businesses were getting to actually support on a basis? So we had a lot of businesses that we worked with end up on well, gain national visibility basically. So through our campaign with Clear Channel, Compass Initiative. So we've worked with them for the last few years to give billboards and out-of-home advertising space to Black-owned businesses. We've worked with ITV. We've worked with lots of national press outlets to get more exposure to Black-owned businesses as well. And we also worked as part of the Black in Business campaign with Channel 4 and Lloyd's as well, which obviously gave TV advertising to Black-owned businesses. So there's a lot we've done to support with helping businesses get to the mainstream, but then
Yeah.
similarly helped consumers to find them as well, particularly those from the Black British community. Because what I find really exciting about our work is that it's more about how we're supporting the economic empowerment of our community, which doesn't just mean Black people buying from Black-owned businesses, which I think is
Yeah.
really, really special. But there is something really important about Black people being able to find Black-owned businesses, particularly when we're talking about cultural products, when we're talking about or events, when we're talking about things that hold particular meaning for us as a people. And we've had some really amazing feedback about, I'm delighted that I've been able to find a birthday card with plantain on it. Or
Plantain. Sorry. It's a habit. My bad. Sorry.
debatable. We'll derail the whole podcast.
Yeah.
Or I've got oven gloves which have okra on it and things that things like that.
Yeah.
Which is really, really important as well for kind of building up our collective sense of self and just like reaffirming who we are.
That is so crazy. Just the amount of things that you've I was gonna say, yeah, got your hands into. Because I remember when Jamie was a website. Because yeah, you had the gift, well, not the gift card, but the loyalty card essentially, and that really opened my eyes up to so many Black businesses for like candles, like you said, like cards as well with Black people on it, like these small like novelty things that you just have a connection to. Like I think I still have like I don't even know what print it was, but I want to say like a Kintake print face mask during the pandemic, because
Yeah.
I think I got that at a pop up. Like it's all
Yeah.
these novelty things that they actually mean a lot to me because of like where I got them from as well. Do you find like what are the struggles that you find Black businesses are still having now as compared to 2017? Because you mentioned about the difficulty of like getting loans, so there's still like common themes in that.
Yeah, I mean, finance remains a really tricky topic. It's really interesting because there has been a real rise in the number of funds and awareness for the struggles that Black businesses face as it kind of relates to finance. But these are systemic challenges, so it's not something that is going to be dramatically overturned from 2017 or 2020 to now. A lot of these challenges are really pervasive, but that does remain one of them. One of the biggest challenges we find is also around trust and education as well. So generally, I found Black business owners tend to want to bootstrap because of a lack of kind of trust in financial institutions,
Yeah.
or lack of understanding in what their models are and what it is they're actually looking for when it comes to lending. And that kind of can just lead to people just feeling really discouraged. So, for instance, if people are going out for loans, and this isn't just Black business owners, by the way, this is a problem that all small business owners are kind of end up facing into, but it's particularly acute when it's Black business owners, we found. When you don't know, or you're not super confident in navigating the financial landscape, you naturally are more likely to get rejected. And when you get rejected for whether it's investment or loans, it has a really negative effect on how you feel, your confidence, whether or not you're going to go out to get investment again. And that can be really tricky. So that's been something which we've definitely been aware of. I think also the amount of support that's available for businesses that are looking to scale as well. Because one of the things that we find is Black businesses in particular will end up like in a consumer space. So creating products or services that are kind of, direct to consumer.
Yeah.
And that jump from doing it on a kitchen counter to scaling significantly and, being on the shelves of retailers or whatever is really big. And it's really hard to navigate, again, for everyone. But if you are from an underserved community that doesn't naturally have all of the networks and the access, it's really, really difficult to navigate that. And so we often find Black businesses ending up in this kind of space where they're doing really well, but like, how do they actually scale and how do they actually get to the next level? And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of players in the ecosystem about this. So funders, the providers of like business support, like accelerator programs and stuff like that. And there is more and more coming online to solve this challenge. But these are some really deeply systemic problems. And there's a lot more that needs to be done through a government lens, through a policy lens. It's not just one organisation that is going to be able to solve all of these problems. We have to work together as an ecosystem, and it's also not a problem that can only be solved from within the community as well.
There's so many questions I want to ask from what you just said, because there's a question around like, what advice would you give people? But maybe I'll seek like clarification. Like, what are the systemic barriers that you are noticing?
So finance, obviously one of them. Access to finance, access to information, networks and skills, probably like the big ones. And like I said, these are ones that a lot of business owners face into.
Yeah.
Where it becomes particularly acute for Black business owners is, if I think about access to finance, for instance, the Black community historically has very low levels of generational wealth and household wealth. So money begets more money. And if you don't have much to start with, then it's going to be really hard for you to get access to even more.
Yeah.
So household incomes low, generational wealth relatively low. When you look at our salaries versus those of other ethnic groups as well, in terms of, and like our professional progression, there are difficulties there. If we don't tend to own assets, then getting loans is going to be harder.
Okay.
If we are building businesses that typically focus on the Black community in terms of products, then when it comes to raising finance, you may struggle because of a lack of data, because there's not a huge amount of information around Black consumers either.
That's what you mentioned.
There is now increasingly around beauty, but other things less so. You might also find that the decision makers don't fully understand the business, so don't quite see the vision. There also tends to be relatively lower levels of financial literacy in the Black community as a result of all the things that I just said, which means even when you do have a good business, sometimes it's just hard to tell that story. It's hard to know actually what is it a bank or an investor or who a financial decision maker needs to see to understand you're trying to them. So, for instance, we've been working with Lloyds for a long time, or 3 years now, on all of the initiatives they do to support Black business owners. And when I turned up, it was like a running joke that I did not understand what good account conduct was. I was like, what is that? Like, and it's the concept of, making sure you run all your direct debits through an account and getting them paid on time, putting all your revenue through the account. Basically showing the bank that you are capable of managing your money. These are things that, like, relatively basic concepts, which I just had no knowledge of. And if you don't have knowledge of those types of things, then it just makes it really hard to get access to the funding you need and when you need it. The best time to ask for money is when you have it, not when you don't.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
That's also really tricky. Access to information. So there's been a lot of reports that show that Black businesses are much more likely to look within the community for support. They're much less likely to go to banks, go to councils, local enterprise partners, whatever it might be, to access business support, which is also really tricky because it means everything is kind of staying in-house. We're not looking outside for to organizations who it's actually in their interest to support us, which is also complicated, but also as a community, apparently much more likely to pay for support than access all of the free support that's available as well.
I think that's to do with trust, though. Like, I think that's to do with trust. You trust when you pay for something more.
Yeah, exactly. Access to networks, because there tends to be the successful business owners within our community tend to be less visible. So it's harder for us to access them, to understand their stories and their journeys. But then compounded with the fact that, I mean, obviously I'm massively generalizing here, but like the Black community it's more difficult to be professionally successful and get senior levels. And so that also makes it difficult when it comes to networking as well, because who we know may not be always the key decision makers. There might not be enough of us in places when and things like that. So that's another struggle. There's so many. I could keep going. There's loads.
Just rattling them off.
There's so many. There's the fact that all of us know people who've been declined for lending, and that also makes us feel like either lending or some sort of finance. Word of mouth spreads really fast in our community, and there's nothing that will spread faster than a bad news story. So there's also the concept of discouragement and us kind of sometimes inadvertently reinforcing narratives that might not always be true as well. There's a few narratives in the Black community in particular that when you do a bit of digging and you look at the data, you're like, that's not true.
This is really interesting.
And it's things like that which just kind of reinforce. Do you know?
Because I think I know one, but I'm really interested in hearing what because
So I'll give you one. Obviously, I'll talk from a banking perspective, but banks don't know your ethnicity. Like, they don't know. They don't know, and they're incentivized to never find out because it is absolutely against the law. It's a crime to use ethnicity when making a lending decision. It is a crime. And so banks are heavily incentivized to not find that information out.
I think they know when they see a subscription of plantain every month from my account. They're like, they can get something. If they see me keep buying plantain, they're like, okay, this guy's from the region.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe, but like it's just not something that banks are. Why are we banks are just not incentivized at all to kind of capture or want to make decisions based on that information. But a lot of people think that that banks do. It's the same with disability as well. A lot of people think that banks. There are a lot of structures put in place to make sure that
they can't make decisions.
The banks do you know how much money they would get fined by the government if it got found out to be true? Yeah, the thing is, now I work for Lloyds, I see it, and I see how far that information is kept, or any information kept from the decision makers. So I see it, but on the outside, I can completely understand why people feel that way. But it's really not true. but that is something where it's just a narrative that we have,
Yeah.
that, oh, you must know that I'm this, or you must know that I'm that. Some people think, oh, you must know that I'm gay, and that's why this, it's not just, again, it's not just the Black community, but it's just something which really persists, which is it's just really interesting. But then
The one
reinforcing us feeling like I'm not going to go forward for finance.
the one that I heard that's a myth is the like the black pound being in the like the black economy. It's not that it's not necessarily true. It's just that it there's been no research into it. Do you know how they say, well,
Yeah,
the Jewish pound lost,
no, there's no
exchanges
data.
20 hands, whereas it's just
Yeah, there's no data, and it's like that's the problem. Like, it's
yeah.
almost
So
like there's no information on ethnicity and business at all in this country. No one captures it, and that's
yeah,
actually a problem, because if we did, then we would actually be a lot clearer on what some of the real challenges are that
yeah.
are being faced by Black business owners, and in what regions they're facing them, and actually how we could truly systemically address them. But there is no data whatsoever. We actually don't know. Like, fundamentally, we don't know. Nobody knows. But that's a massive problem.
But you mentioned data as a big barrier in 2017 as well. So what are businesses like Jamii or even like your work with Lloyd CSB, like what are you doing to try and add to that data pool or that data gap?
Yeah, so with Jamii, we released a few reports actually, particularly looking at the impact of the Black Lives Matter movement on Black-owned businesses, because it was something that was really interesting. And by and large, what we saw was really strong short-term spikes. So in the short term, businesses were reporting kind of 100, 200% sales increases. But longer term, it was really tricky to leverage that into longer term success, which is not necessarily surprising. I mean, when we think about what was actually happening during the Black Lives Matter movement, we were all at home. We were all laser focused on a really, really tragic and heartbreaking story. And we kind of, by and large, had nothing else to do. We also weren't kind of outspending money on other things. Like, we had a lot of disposable income, by and large, as well. So it made a lot of sense that in the short term, everyone was kind of spending, and that was and businesses in our community were able to benefit from that. But then as time went on, the pull of I'm going to shop with a Black-owned business simply because they're Black-owned, understandably, just kind of waned. And so it was more the businesses who had really strong underlying business models and were in a place to leverage all of the extra customers that they got that were able to benefit. But that wasn't something that was blanket, which, to be fair, is to be expected. That is kind of what happens. It's surge pricing. That was why I set Jamii up in the first place, because I saw that happen in the first wave of the Black Lives Matter movement as well. And it can actually end up being kind of damaging, because you end up with businesses, particularly those that were relatively new in the time of 2020, who think this is normal. And so they start investing quite heavily in like bigger infrastructure. And then having to scale back, and it can actually be quite difficult and quite psychologically challenging as a business owner as well. So that was something that we found, it was a really interesting time, actually.
Yeah, because you have such a unique purview in terms of you work with a lot of different businesses as well. You've probably seen some that have become huge successes. You've probably seen some that were looking successful, then became failures as well. So, like, what have you learned from the businesses that you've worked with across all these years?
So I think one of the biggest things I've learned, one of the biggest Black-owned businesses I've ever known, well, not ever known, but I've met. But one of the biggest Black-owned businesses I've met is called First Response Group in Leeds. They're like almost 100 million in revenue. Yeah, fantastic business.
Thanks.
The guy who started it, Edgar, absolutely phenomenal entrepreneur. He started his business. He said he walked out into Leeds town centre and he looked around and he thought, what does everyone have, and what is never going to go out of business? And he looked around and he saw a bunch of CCTV cameras and he thought, security. That's a business that is completely inelastic. It doesn't matter rise or fall of economies, rise or fall of seasons, of trends, of tastes. Everyone needs to be secure. And that is, and now he's massive. He's grown through acquisition. So he just buys businesses across West Yorkshire and the Northeast and Scotland to grow. Really phenomenal entrepreneur. Definitely check him out. But I think this concept of how do I build a strong business, I think is one of the big lessons. Like, take black out of it. We're going to be black whether we're in business, whether we're in healthcare, whether we're whatever. Focus on the business and how do I build that really a really strong, resilient, sustainable model that is not dependent on trends or whatever it might be. And then I think one of the second things that I've learned is thinking about how do you build an organization that you can take yourself out of and it won't fall down. And that takes time. That's not something, you need to think about. You
don't do that a month in.
Yeah, you can't do that month in. But it's really, really important when you think about how you pass your business down to the generations, how you protect your organization, how you make sure you've got the right governance in place, how you bring new people in. Some of the really successful business owners have been really great at doing that and thinking, who do I need in place? What path do I need to create to get to a point where I turn up because I want to, not because I need to.
That doesn't get done without me.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see that as well. And I think the last one, it's going to be a really controversial one. Someone like me saying this, but I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs in our community that immediately go to align purpose and profit, and sometimes can put purpose ahead of profit, which is totally fine. But we need to, as a community, make sure that financial sustainability is still there. Because I've come across so many businesses who will say, I'm doing all of these amazing things for the community, but I'm not making any money, and I'm depleting myself as a person as a result of it, because I'm so stressed all the time, because I've poured my life savings in, because I've done this. And sometimes I just think, or what I say to businesses is, first of all, are you actually a business? Because maybe you should be a charity. Maybe you should be a completely different setup to support your goals. But also, what it's sounding like you're making is not sustainable. It's something which requires you to pour so much of yourself into it. And maybe you need to think about how you bring in the alignment, and not to say because you need to make profit as if profit is greed, but profit as in financial sustainability.
Yeah, it's air.
You've built up a strong enough operating model that the organization gets to a point where it's capable of covering its own costs, and you don't need to personally be depleting yourself in order to keep it going. And I see it a lot, and the reason why I'm really bringing it up is because it can, mental health and the mental health of founders is really, really important, and it's something I think we need to really prioritize at the beginning of the journey. And it's really hard. It's because we are so good at creating businesses that have purpose at the heart. It almost feels like it's almost harder to step away and to look coldly at the organization and say, am I making the right decisions here? Because if I'm running a business which is all about supporting the progression of Black girls, for instance, if I'm running a light bulb business, I'm going to view them very differently.
That's
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very different. Which is totally fine, and it's totally fair, and it's totally valid. But I think we just need to make sure we're not burning ourselves out and making just inappropriate decisions almost for the organizations that we're because you can absolutely do both, but you need to at the start make sure that you are aligning both your purpose and your financial sustainability properly. Does that make sense?
No, thank you for really, because I was going to ask, like, what does that mean in terms of putting profit over purpose? But essentially just making sure that your business is sustainable, that you're not just killing yourself to make this business work without
basically.
realizing you're losing yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure you've met so many entrepreneurs yourself over the year who are absolutely phenomenal, and the purpose and what they are doing is absolutely incredible. But at the same time, they're really struggling, and it's almost like that struggle will long term will actually will limit your impact.
Yeah.
And that's something I've learned a lot over the last few years by speaking to the really successful business owners in our community, is that they're really razor sharp on that, which is that you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to build a financially sustainable organization. Otherwise, you're just going to limit yourself. Like all of the stuff that you're doing that is amazing for the communities that you serve or amazing for society is going to be limited if you are not doing it in a financially sustainable way.
Yeah. Who knew being a business owner was so tough? Well, I guess
I know. I know.
So, we've run out of time. I do have a few more questions. They're just essentially quick fire questions, if you're okay with that. Not many.
Yeah.
So the first one is like, what did you get completely wrong about this journey?
So I thought that I'd be a millionaire within the first months. So I got that one completely wrong. I also was definitely one of those people, like, and this is why I can speak so plainly about it. I definitely thought purpose is all I need. And all I need is to be aligned with my mission and the money will come. And that's not how it works. And it's a lesson I really wish that I'd learned sooner. I also was one of those people who didn't trust organizations outside of the Black community, so I didn't go to them for help. Again, wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had reached out sooner. I wish I'd felt more comfortable, because I probably would have gotten a lot further, a lot faster. And I think I wish I had also tried to write a business plan. I could have still done everything at breakneck speed, but built some sort of vision, some sort of North Star that said, this is where I want to get to, and this is how I'm going to try and get there.
Yeah.
So that I could kind of articulate not just a mission, because I was always really clear on the mission, but to more clearly articulate the how a bit more practically. Because for the first few years of Jamii, I just kind of was like, oh, we'll do this, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do the other, which is great up to a point, but there really comes a point where you do need a bit more of a plan. So literally everything I've said is almost me talking to my 2017 self.
Yeah, that's talking to 22-year-old Jamii.
You should have done that, and you should have done the
Come
other.
on, Khalia, you got this.
And it's through my experience, but also my proximity to so many other incredible entrepreneurs that I see the bits where I'm like, oh, I wish we knew this as a community, and I wish a younger me knew it as well.
See, on the flip side, I want to ask, like, what did you get right? Because, like I said, there's parts of this interview in 2017 that's like prophetic. Like, so what do you think that you brought to life?
So back in 2017, I was adamant that we would focus on Black-owned businesses, not just ethnic minority businesses. And I think I got that part right, because that is just core to who we are. It was core to the mission that I was trying to build, and I think that's also why we have so much brand equity, because we were just really clear on who we are, and we were okay with who we weren't. I think having a real community first approach was also something that we did really well. And really being open to hearing feedback, positive, negative, really negative. We were totally fine. Just let us know. We'll kind of iterate out loud. And I think also just never being too proud to kind of accept where we've gone wrong, I think is something that I'm quite proud of. When I think about our journey, or this is what I think we did really well. When I think about our journey, we've always been relatively humble as a brand and as individuals behind the brands. And I think that's really helped us build connections. It's meant that people have maintained their trust in us. It's meant even years after the fact, we'll still get customers raving about us and wanting to bring us in for opportunities and stuff like that. And I think that's definitely something we've done well.
So, what is one thing you'd tell your 22-year-old Khalia?
I would tell her all the stuff that I think I did wrong and be like, do this.
Just do this instead.
Yeah, I'd be like, do this better. Do this better. I think it's hard as well, because like I said, there are actually a lot more really successful Black business owners than we know of as a community, but they're just not visible.
Yeah.
I think that makes it tricky as well. So I would definitely say to a 22-year-old Khalia to hustle a bit harder and really try and find something. I know.
You're quite hard on 22-year-old Khalia. Like, she's done okay for herself.
But it's just, you ask me, what would I tell her? And I just be like, yeah. You need
Not
to
like,
find...
oh, you're doing a great job, keep going. You're like, no, you could do better.
No,
and you're doing great.
Yeah, I was doing... No, I was doing... You're right, I'm being negative. I'm being hard on myself.
And she's just a kid. Like, you know,
I know. I'm like, do better. I'm like a tiger mum to my
22-year-old self. So the last question is like, where is Jamii now? And like, what's the next chapter? What's the next 10 years going to look like?
No, the next 10 years. Well, I definitely wasn't able to really answer that in 2017. Maybe I did answer that in 2017. I think what we're really focused on at the moment is just celebrating the fact that we made it to 10. I think that, which is like 95% of businesses don't make it past their third birthday. And the fact that we've gotten to 10 is just really, really impactful. And I think I almost just want to stay in that moment and just give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back to just kind of take stock of everything that we've achieved. And just be proud of ourselves, I think.
No, that's really good. Thank you so much for your time. And
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming to the I guess this wrap up 20 Nothing series, because it's not just about like the dreams that we have in our 20s. I think it's so important that, you know, people like you are actually building them and we've seen them come to light.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I said in 2017 I thought you could be a game changer, and 8 years later I think I was right. So I'll say it again. I can't wait to see what you get. I can't wait to see what happens in the next 2, 3, 5, or 10 years at Jamii. Thank you so much.
Thank you.